Welcome to the Go Reflect Yourself podcast, bringing you real strategies to cultivate the life and business of your dreams, full of freedom and fulfillment, starting from the inside out. Working hard and staying busy will only get you so far. To truly become happy, content, and who you're meant to be, we have to move beyond physical capacities and begin to look from within. We have to change our thoughts and our mindset into our most powerful assets, transforming you to take inspired action so you can become a better version of yourself and to have the life of your dreams.
You are stronger than you believe. You have greater powers than you know.
Okay, welcome to another episode of Go Reflect Yourself, where we start from the inside out, helping you achieve your goals and dreams in life, starting with how you think. Today, I'm so excited. I have my very special and amazing friend, Kimmy Seltzer from Elite Image Makeovers. I want to make sure I say that just right. Kim is a confidence therapist and an authentic dating specialist. She's been featured all over, including CW, The Great Love Debate, The Romance, and she specializes in image consulting, dating coaching, and confidence coaching. So Kim, welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me. Super excited about this conversation today.
Yes. I want to just jump right in because I know we could talk for hours. So I want to make sure we just jump right in. Authentic dating. So that's really a big part of what you do. But I'm very curious if you can just start, if you want to explain a little bit more about what you do, but specifically, why authentic dating?
It's a good question. And actually, it's kind of a newer title for me, to be honest. And, just to kind of backtrack a little bit and where I was so that you can understand where I am now is that, I used to be just a traditional therapist. I was from Chicago. I am from Chicago. I lived in Chicago and I led a very traditional life. Okay. I was married. I had a couple kids. I still have the kids. Don't have the husband any longer. This is part of the story, right? And so I pick up and I move across the country with my family to La La Land. We get here and that's where the record stopped and how my career, my life as I knew it completely went upside down. Okay. And up until that point, and it's interesting how you talk about inside out. I used to work from the inside out. I mean, I truly believed as a therapist, you do have to work on the inside. I still believe that. However, what I'm about to share with you really kind of flipped the switch into how I approach people today, in that I land here, everything happened, I get a divorce, I joke, I did what all the other people here do in LA. No, obviously there were other issues, right? You're in the Midwest, I'm sure you see this too. But really what was like kind of in front of me was a choice that I had to make with my career, my life, how I was going to approach dating, after divorce, like how was this all going to happen? And the truth was in that moment, I was in a very dark place and my clothes reflected it. Okay. I call it my black period. If you saw me back then, I had these ginormous black clothes on. I still had the nursing bras on. And mind you, I was not nursing any longer. Like that's how stuck I was. And the thing is I had gotten a ton of help and support. I worked on myself. I definitely went to therapy. I had a great support system with my friends and my family, but I still could not get out of my own way and become that like successful person again, in my life and my career, all of that just seemed to stop. And one day, and this is what changed everything, and what you kind of heard in my bio and what I do today with people is that I looked in the mirror and I hated what I saw. And so I decided to go shopping. Like literally that was, retail therapy. I just got to do something different. And I go to the store and I'm thinking I'm doing something different, right? But what am I doing? I'm pulling all the black clothes again, 3 sizes too big again. But because I'm thinking I'm in a new store with new clothes, that somehow it's new, but it wasn't. And it was really a metaphor for where I was at until this personal shopper, she came up to me and she said, ma'am, I think you should try this on. And she holds up this red dress that looked like 3 sizes too small. I said, that's very sweet of you. However, that's not my size and it's not my color. And she said, honey, that is your size. That is your color. Try it on. And Heather, I kid you not, I feel like she hit me over the head with that red dress. I call it my red dress moment. And it was then and only then when I woke up, because I put on that red dress and I looked in the mirror and it was like all the pieces in the mirror that was shattered on the ground before suddenly came together into this image of myself. And I bought that costume that day. I call it a costume because I still don't really believe it, but when I started walking into the world in that red dress, things started happening. And I realized there was a symbiotic relationship between the outer and the inner when it comes to confidence, because I needed some evidence from the outside that I was okay. You know, I had this fear, these limiting beliefs that I wouldn't be lovable again. Look, you know, but then again, I was keeping myself that way, right? And we know this to be true, especially when you're in that victim mode. So everything else just started happening to me that you heard in my bio, and I flipped the switch. And now what I do today is really helping people from the outside in, you know, attracting what they want. And so why I like the word authentic and confidence therapist now is because at the end of the day, it is all about how you feel about yourself. You know, and it's not just the inside, it's the outside. It's actually putting together a strategy for people so that they can, you know, plug in the holes and things that are missing for them in their lives, whether it be their style, their emotional or social intelligence. And those are the 3 pillars, the charisma quotient, in which I work. The authenticity piece is, I think that a lot of times when we approach things, we're not doing things that are authentically us. We might do a method or hear things here and there or do what our friends or society thinks, but we're all uniquely ourselves. We each have our own story and journey that also trips us up, right? Like there are things, patterns that get created along the way that we sometimes don't even know about. So the authenticity piece is like, okay, look, what are the pieces missing in that puzzle so we can plug that in to make you more successful in your life? And that's kind of a long-winded answer. So I hope you don't get, but I wanted to share that because it really relates to your show and what we're talking about today.
That's perfect. And it's so beautiful. Thank you for setting that up, Kim. Do you remember the lady's name that gave you the red dress?
That's so interesting. Do you know I don't? I can picture what she looks like. Like I see her. Yeah. And that's what I remember. And it was just that vision of her holding that red dress up.
Yeah. I'm just curious, just attaching that because we all need that person. And so what's happened is you've morphed into that person for other people, right? So the red dress lady is now Kim.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, now she wasn't wearing a red dress. Right, well, that's what I thought. That's what I thought was so funny is she was dressed all in black, but I think that's their costume. I think that's their costume for Bloomingdale's where I was. So, but yeah, it's really true. And the other thing about that moment, and we can talk about this, is that, you know, I think there are times where we know we need to change and we know we need to get there, but fear often gets in the way of that. And we might get messages from other people who can really help us get out of our own way, but you can't really do it unless you're ready, that you're crystal clear on, you know what, either you're so fed up and doing the same thing over and over again and getting that result that does not feel good for you. Because maybe if that woman came to me in that, like maybe 6 months prior, I wouldn't have been able to try that dress on or even hear what she was saying. But it hit me like a ton of bricks when she said it. It was just this little moment that completely catapulted me into this kind of new life.
So that receiving, it's not just right time, right place, but you were open and had enough awareness.
Yes.
Just that glimpse of awareness to be able to receive. So that's such an interesting glimpse. What if you because I mean, I'm just thinking about so many people that are struggling, not just right now, but in normal environments.
Yeah.
And your story is everybody's story in a lot of different ways of getting in our own way when we've had these things happen. We now have a different lens of ourselves, and people see us so differently, but it doesn't matter. So when we're stuck, the question in that is, when we're stuck, what do we do?
Take action. And that's the thing why I call myself a strategist now, is that I believe that, again, we can hear messages and we know intellectually in our heads. And was my problem being just a regular therapist and not having more of that tangible tools for people as a coach, is that we can talk a good game and think a good game, but it's actually taking action that's way harder. Let's face it, doing things is scary. But when, you actually have a plan around what it is to do and you do it in chunks. And when I sit down, it's almost like a business plan that I'm creating for people, according to their life. If it's a life plan, it's a dating plan, a confidence plan, but it's looking at first, your style intelligence, which is, okay, how are you presenting yourself, first of all? Is it your wardrobe? Is it your body language? Is it your first impressions? Is it the tonality of your voice? All of those things, the way you're marketing yourself is the first hit that people see and how people react. So if we can just change that. And what I love about the outside is it's instant. Like, if you can wear a different color that makes an impact in how you're being seen, why wouldn't you do it? Because that's going to give you the confidence then to keep going. So once we get a handle on that, and not everybody needs it. There's some people who have great presentation, but then I go inward and say, okay, well then how is their emotional intelligence? And I know you work with people on this as well. So, it's so uber important on how we manage our emotions, how we identify those feelings, but then more so, how do we express it to the outside world so that we're sending out those right messages? That means vulnerability, authenticity. Are we being our true selves in the way we're communicating so that people really get how we feel? And setting boundaries, of course. Huge, right? And then the third piece is the social intelligence, creating a plan around, all right, how do you interact with the world? How do you manage relationships? And yes, that includes flirting, ladies and gentlemen. I always say, flirting is my favorite thing to teach. I've done some flirt workshops, and nowadays I'm doing virtual flirt workshops, which is super fun. And no matter if you're single or not, flirting is just an interesting dynamic. It has to do with your magnetism and charisma and playfulness that attracts people, no matter if you're talking about business or love. And so, again, working on those three areas and giving people actionables will help build that confidence over time. And you probably see this too. I love when people say, oh, well, just be more confident, you'll be fine. It's like, well, if I knew how to do that, I would be doing that, So to me, it's more about the baby steps that you can take, the small wins, as I call it, to add up to the bigger picture.
I love that. So there's a little bit of an element of just fake it. And a lot of people talk about that because, I may put on this different outfit and my outward appearance certainly is important. I'm trying to get that attraction in life. Maybe it's not a mate. Maybe it's just to be a happier human. So just starting with that. But there's so many people that just don't feel it. And so how do we go from, and I love the baby steps because it is, if I just tweak one little thing, maybe then I can take another step that can help and then another step. So can you talk to that from kind of that fake it? And I've always struggled with that fake it till you make it thing, but there's some truth to it as well.
Not only is there truth, there's scientific proof that this works. And so I know this also to be true. I have a theater background and I used to do a lot of improv. And it was really interesting to me to see people in roles and in costumes and how it would shift people's behaviors. I mean, we see this in Halloween, right? Like you see people who are like these really shy girls and they're dressed in like vixen outfits or a cat suit. And suddenly they're like really like a vixen, And so, no, there was actually a study done, and it was put out in I believe it was the New York Times, where they did a study about how clothes impact performance and also how it affects us internally. So this is really interesting in that when I don't know, they had a group of doctors that weren't really doctors, but they had white coats on. And then the real doctors didn't have white coats on. And the ones with the white coats actually outperformed the real doctors in people's minds and the way they were presenting. Then they did a study in the brain and they saw that the brain shifted, and they coined the term enclothed cognition, that when you wear something, it actually changes the chemistry in your brain. So that's really fascinating. So it isn't faking it. It's actually, I believe, putting the body and the mind in a certain state that gives you the confidence to act as if. Right. And so that is how I kind of view it. And I see this to be true with all the makeovers that I do. I mean, if you go to my site, kimmyseltzer.com, you'll see all my makeovers. And what's profound about that is that a lot of the after pictures that you see, I didn't tell them to pose that way. It was like when you see people trying on these clothes, it's like their body actually shifts. And that's what makes a first impression. Again, in the brain, what happens in a first impression is people are judging you based on two things: the clothes that you wear and the attitude that you have. And so again, this isn't superficial. A lot of people will push back and roll their eyes and be like, if somebody doesn't like me for me, then, forget them. I'm not going to change who I am. I'm not going to change my clothes. What we're talking about here, though, is not changing who you are. It's about marketing yourself so that a person gets to know who you are. And that's what's different. I see this also in the dating world where people will put up profiles and they'll have horrible marketing, right? Their pictures are awful or they're not congruent with who they are. So great people are passing them by. But when we put pictures up that actually markets them well, they get a chance to get to know all those people that could be their potential partner.
Yeah, it's just connecting. And being able to facilitate your true self so people can connect with you. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Okay, this is, oh gosh, I've got so many questions. It's gold, because everything I talk about really connects back to the brain, because we've got these habits that we don't even know and understand. And we think that we're just stuck. And we're not. And it's not always our faults either. Sometimes we're just hardwired. And if we can reel it back a little, and this is one of those first steps, just really understanding how you're showing up. And that transcends not just in a relationship perspective in dating, but I'm sure you can speak to this in a much better way. When people are able to come out of that shell, things that just start happening and things that start showing up, and business is better and life all around is better. Can you talk to that a little bit in connection to connecting the dots to what you were just saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the best way to answer is to give you an example of a story. There was one woman, and this is what was really interesting. She came to me for dating coaching, but she said, my style's great. Like my clothes, I buy expensive clothes. I don't really need help there. I really just want help, meeting men and getting a plan around that. I said, great. I said, but one of the first things that I do is I like to just look at the whole picture. I can't diagnose the problem without seeing everything, because that's why I'm very holistic in the way I approach. And so she actually did an in-person kind of intensive with me, if you will. I do both phone coaching and intensives, but when she showed up, she came with, first of all, she was wearing all beige, and then she had this black, I call it a cloak. It wasn't a cloak, but it was like a cloth shawl wrapped around her. It was but it was really big. And that was what she was using as a coat because she was cold. And she had no makeup on and just kind of pale. Now, her clothes were very expensive. I could tell they were, but it was so metaphorically like clear to me that she was hiding, you know, in the colors she wore, from the wrap she had around her, like even just her body language with the wrap was really profound. And I said to her, I said, you know, we're going to put together a plan, and I'm going to teach you how to flirt. We're going to coach, but we can't do anything until we get a handle on your clothes. And she looked at me and she's like, what? She's like, my clothes are fine. I said, you're hiding, and like you seem unapproachable just even with the clothes and your body language. And she had no clue that that was part of the picture. It's hard to see ourselves, right? Like that's why I think that outside piece is really important, because even when I'm doing phone coaching, until I get a picture of someone, then things start coming together. And so I said, look, before we go shopping, I just want you to do one thing. I want you to get red lipstick, and I want you to wear it for a week. You can keep your clothes and just report to me in a week and just tell me what happens. Just every single day wear the red lipstick. And she was hoarse. She's like, I can't wear red lipstick. And I'm like, well, you paid me a bunch of money. You're going to do what I tell you. So she puts on this bright red lipstick. And actually, I mean, with her coloring, it looked beautiful. But she had to get used to being seen, right? Just like my red dress. And she came back to me. She said, oh my God, Kim, that magic red bullet. I said, well, what happened? And she said, I don't know what it is. Like I put on this red lipstick, and like guys start talking to me in the subway, and she was in the city, and she's like, and my Uber driver was talking, and I found myself talking more. And yeah, like I met people organically out and about. That never happens. So what was it? Was it the magic red bullet? Well, kind of. I mean, it wasn't that it made her totally like instantly, you know, confident, but it was a vehicle to help her get there, because that red signified, you know, there was a signal that was sending out with that color. And actually red, there's been research that red does attract men. That's just, again, a research site talking, not just me. And so what that did, that allowed her then to not be as shy because they were approaching. So again, like it all worked together. So that's how you connect the dots. It can start with that red lipstick and then roll into other things. Now, of course, from there, I created a monster, because then we went shopping. We got her all these sexy clothes. She became this like amazing flirt where, in fact, her friends were going to her for like, you know, flirt lessons, and wanted to be like, you know, the wing person with her and all that. But, you know, again, it had to start somewhere. If I had started with just like the flirt session without doing that, I think it would have backfired. She had to build to that, right? And collect evidence to get to that point. And I'm happy to say at the end, she landed herself a boyfriend as she was out and about.
And organically as well.
Organically, yeah.
Yeah. And isn't that so fascinating how, and I'm just thinking about what I'm wearing today. It's a gray, gloomy day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, don't look at what I'm wearing.
You look gorgeous, darling. No, but you know, colors do affect our moods, and our moods affect the colors for sure. I mean, I'm wearing a more subdued, actually we kind of match, which is really interesting to me, because it's gloomy here too.
Yeah.
But it also, think about how color can be a mood lifter. And there's a lot of psychology with color depending on what you're trying to go for. Like for instance, in business, red sells and blue actually can mean authority. And so there's, you know, a lot of things to think about in ways of, how can I play with color? How can I play with style in my presentation to get the impact that I'm looking for? And what does that do? That builds your confidence.
Yeah. So why is it that so many people really, and I think that's a great metaphor, and I'm thinking about, I live in the Midwest, as you know, so that's where you're from, and I'm sure you could put the image. So many people do have those shawls as their style more than anything. And it's like this cape. So it's completely hiding. So it's fascinating to look at that from a personality perspective. And just to draw the line in success and say, why is it so hard to truly be seen? And I think about that also in the business world of you're supposed to act a certain way, look a certain way, and you forget your identity And then the stress builds up, and it's just this entire process. So back from kind of the hiding, why is it so hard for people just to be that vulnerable and to be seen?
It's a great question. And that's usually the very first thing that I try to uncover. I mean, before making a plan with somebody to help them be more comfortable being seen, you have to figure out where it all started. Right. And making those connections are huge. And it always boils down to fears, right? Fears of, failure, fears of rejection, fear of the unknown, fear of not being liked, and so it's first really figuring that out for yourself or making that connection. And usually those are attached to, and this is just the therapist in me, usually it's attached to earlier messages somewhere along the line. And that was like that pre-programming thing that ends up happening. And I know you do a lot of work around that too. Mm-hmm. And so once we figure that out, then it's like not dwell on it, but okay, great. Now we made that connection. We connected the dots. How can we move forward with that? And, I've done a lot of, coaching sessions where I help people in business with that very thing. Mm-hmm. What's really interesting is that when, let's say you're in a business networking event or you're a speaker and you're about to go speak, before you even open your mouth, people are making those judgment calls on who you are in the world, whether they trust you, whether they want to talk to you, whether they're going to buy from you, just based on how you move in that room. Now, you may not like it, and that really, then I don't want to be with those people. It doesn't matter if you think that, you do that too. Meaning you, the listener, it's a human behavior. And so knowing that, again, this is what excites me, is what if you knew what to put on your body that would give a different impact to the world? So what I really like helping people understand is their body type and teaching them about, first of all, what body type they have. If you're a woman, there are 5. If you're a man, there are 3. And then what cuts flatter your figure and what cuts to stay away from. I'm very scientific in the way I approach clothes. That's half the battle. And that is what's going to give you confidence in your clothes. Because if something fits you right, then you feel better moving in those clothes, and then you get compliments in them. See, it all, again, goes hand in hand. So the other thing is looking at your style, right? So if you have a goal in mind of selling, that's going to be different than if you're going on a date. So we should all have kind of different parts of our closet that signify what we're trying to achieve, different parts of our life. I'm not this stylist from LA saying, oh, you must wear this and this looks fabulous. It's more about what's your lifestyle? Who are you? What is your body type? What are you trying to achieve? So again, that you attract what you want. And then once you are in clothes that makes you feel good, that kind of paints that picture, what's your body language saying with that? If you feel good in your clothes, that's that already you're 50% better than where you were before, because you're going to move into the room with more confidence with that outfit. And it's, again, not superficial. If you're a woman, it's a good day when you have a good hair day. Come on, let's face it. If we have a bad hair day, it's distracting, So it's getting rid of all those easy distractions so that you can be authentically you. It's just the opposite of what people think.
Yeah. Yeah. They think they have to be this perfect version for people to love or like them.
Right.
But let's be honest. We all want, having a compliment, even if it's a tiny little thing, that can make your day. And then it goes from there. It's that ripple and domino effect. So those tiny little ways that you can help to show up so somebody notices you. And it's not about giving all yourself. It's just being able to have a connection and an interaction. Yes. And that I think about so many times when people, and we all know who they are. When someone walks into the room and they've got swagger and confidence, maybe they don't feel it, but they know how to show up. And that's kind of a whole other sideways story. But we all feel it. And then we're watching, and then you're envious, and it's like, then they start owning the room, and it's just attraction, and like attracts like. So it's such a fascinating thing. And I love what you do just because it puts both perspectives in place. So let's drill it back just a little bit on that thought process. When I, as a human, anybody, when we have these thoughts about ourselves and maybe success, maybe it's something big or little, and we have those doubts. I'm not good enough. I can't do that. That's not for me. What's one little thing that somebody can do to take that step?
Really, and I say this a lot, it's like learning a new language, right? We'll all default to what we know. So if you have evidence of something that's not working, you might keep going back to that because that's all you know. So you have to do something that creates a new pattern and a new habit. And the only way that you can do that is practice. So I am really big on practice and actually doing things. So if you're not good at flirting and your belief is that no guys approach you, well, what can you do? Like, we can't change the men, right? But we can change the way that you're approaching and your perspective on it so that you can see a different result. And so maybe it's you practicing going to public places, and even like, and nowadays we're wearing masks, and whether or not you're listening to this during this time or later on, it doesn't matter. What I love about eye contact is that you can do this anywhere, anytime, any place. You go and you practice making eye contact every single day, and you can give yourself, gamify it, make it a little like challenge for yourself, and that how long and how many people can you make eye contact with so that you get super comfortable. Because if you're not used to making eye contact, that's part of approachability. Maybe guys don't think you're interested in talking to them because you're looking down all the time. And so again, it takes that, it's like muscle memory. It's just like going to the gym. You have to exercise it in order for it to become a solid muscle. Otherwise, you'll just go back to the old body. You'll go back to what you know. And so that's the bit, for me, that's a game changer, is really, but it's hard to do that on your own without that accountability sometimes, or, from a bird's eye view of somebody looking at you from that perspective and then holding you accountable to put those actions into place. So that's why I'm such a big believer in coaching and therapy and all. Just, it takes a village, all different kinds of people who can help you in that way. I know we have to wrap up now, but, it kind of relates to this new series that I have coming out. I have seen over the years that there are 5 challenges, main challenges that women have when they are trying to date. And in those 5 areas, there's always those fears that creep up. And, how people can solve the problem of those challenges vary from, different things. I actually broke them up into archetypes, and I even have like an archetype quiz that you can take to see what you are. And I give these secret weapons to each of the archetypes so that you know what to do. It's what we're talking about, like what can you do to practice to get over that challenge. And so I have this new audio series coming out, and I don't know if you want me to talk about that, but it relates to everything that you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to definitely I'd love to hear more about that, because this is all awareness. To be able to take those little steps, it's about awareness. So definitely, let's hear about it.
Yeah. So I have a podcast called The Charisma Quotient, so you can hear just like my different theories on everything. But also I'm doing kind of a mini series, but it's an audio course. It's called This May Be Why You Suck at Dating. And so it really is targeting specific, strategies around, first of all, having that awareness of what you are finding challenging, but then how do you get over it? And I even have people who are those archetypes on each of these episodes where you'll hear me coach them through these challenges. And it comes with, some workbooks and whatnot. So, super excited about it. And I really just want to help people, because the thing about that is that you recognize it's not that you suck, obviously, but I had to get something to kind of make you think, yeah, why is dating so hard? But really, it's because these challenges are so common. That's why there's 5 of them, because I see them over and over again, and we really are all in this together in ways and how they show up. But there's usually one that surfaces more, and that's the thing to take a look at.
And where can we get that series?
Yeah, well, you can find it on iTunes, so just like with my podcast, and then you can download it. I'll also give your audience the quiz if they want to take it, and that will trigger also, some information about that series as well.
Perfect. I love it. We'll make sure to put that in all the note and links, and go back to your podcast, your blog, and your site. So, and which main site? Because I know you have a couple sites. So you want to go to?
Yeah, they're all tied together. I know it's confusing, but since I was so excited, I finally got my domain name. So it's Kimmy Seltzer, KIMMY Seltzer.com. If you plug in some of the other ones you've heard, like Seltzer Style and Elite Image Makeovers, it'll get there. Okay. But you can see all my information on there, and I'm also on social media, mostly under the handle Kimmy Seltzer.
Perfect. I love it, Kim. Thank you so much for being here. We could talk for 5 more hours.
I know. Well, maybe we'll come back for like part 2,
There we go. We'll do that. We'll do that. Well, until next time, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you're on iTunes or Spotify or another outlet, and we'll see you next time on Go Reflect Yourself. And remember, you are extraordinary. Just make sure you think it. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Go Reflect Yourself. For more inspired action or to stay in touch, head on over to heatherjkreider.com. Or you can follow me on Instagram at #HeatherJKreider or #GoReflectYourself. Until next time, I'm challenging you to go reflect yourself. We'll see you soon.